Oh, hi, listeners. Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is a podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows. Andrew, how are you?
Oh, hi. I'm doing pretty good.
What a story, Andrew.
This week, we're covering The Disaster Artist.
Oh, real Hollywood movie.
No Mickey Mouse. There's no Mickey Mouse movie.
No Mickey Mouse. Yeah, perfect. But, yeah, Disaster Artist. Of course, based off of the infamous film The Room, not to be confused with Brie Larson's Room, which is actually a legitimately excellent film. Good stuff. I'm glad we got a chance to cover this one. I think last week we kind of talked about it at the end of the episode, and we were a little hesitant about it. I think perhaps due to your unfamiliarity with the source material, but as it turned out, I think this will be a pretty fun episode, and it's a very news-heavy episode. I will warn our listeners, there is a lot of news to cover, and I think all of it's actually really relevant too. So, we'll try to be as expeditious as we can be to keep this thing moving at a pretty good clip. But we'll see how it goes. We're going to start with probably the best news of the week. Ryan Reynolds has been cast as Detective Pikachu.
How do you feel about that?
Well, there was a big fan movement to get Danny DeVito to voice Detective Pikachu. So
that would have been good.
I've got to admit, I'm a little disappointed that he didn't get it, because I think that would have been amazing. I mean, I can understand why Nintendo probably wouldn't go for that. And to be fair, usually fan casting is a thing that's generally speaking, a terrible idea.
But Danny DeVito, man, come on.
But that would have been excellent. But Ryan Reynolds is good too. I mean, if you have to pick anyone for this, I suppose it's pretty interesting that they're making this in the first place. I mean, this is, I think, live action.
Yeah, that's what I've read as well.
I think they're doing mocap or something for Detective Pikachu. He's supposed to be like 1 foot tall, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So I don't know how they're going to handle that, or if they're going to make him like supersized, or what they're going to do with that. But it sounds pretty awesome. Apparently, this Pikachu can speak as well, given that they've cast someone to actually
like full words.
I assume so. I think he's like Meowth, maybe from the animated show. I think he's special in some way. I don't really know if there's an explanation for what that is, but I think this is pretty popular in Japan. I don't know if I think there's a game. I know there's definitely a game, like straight up a Detective Pikachu game in Japan.
Yeah.
I don't know if we got it over here in the States. We might have gotten it localized. I don't know. But I mean, this is such a bizarre thing that I can't not be interested in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't expect good things out of it, but
it's definitely strange. Nintendo wanted to make a movie about anything, I could have thought of probably at least 10 other movies I would have made before Detective Pikachu.
Well, we know they're doing the Mario movie that we talked about a little while back, so
right.
Nintendo's just keen on getting in on the Hollywood biz, it seems.
They have some IPs for it. They could do really well if they started doing this.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I don't know that Detective Pikachu is perhaps one of the best starting points, but I'm going to see it, because it just sounds too ridiculous to be true. So I can't imagine a world in which it's not enjoyable in some respect. But moving on, like I said, we got a lot to cover. Quentin Tarantino is possibly going to direct a Star Trek film. This is pretty at a left field for me.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess basically how this happened is he had a meeting with J.J. Abrams, who, of course, did the Star Trek reboot in 2009 and Star Trek Into Darkness. I guess they just had a little meeting, and he pitched basically his idea for a Star Trek movie, and J.J. loved it so much that they hatched together this writer's room, and they're basically trying to figure out who's going to actually write the script. And it sounds like, for all intents and purposes, this is that Paramount is given the green light to this thing. I did see that it is reportedly going to be rated R. So this whole thing is just...
More strange news.
Again, it's just so crazy that, again, how could you not be interested in even just a Tarantino Star Trek movie sounds insane. But then it's a rated R Star Trek movie? Like, what? I mean, Tarantino rated R, those go together like peanut butter and jelly. That's par for the course, but it must be a damn good idea if basically not only JJ, but all the higher ups at Paramount are like, fuck yeah, let's get this thing moving. Like, I have to know what it is. You know?
Yeah, I can't think of a direction to. I don't think has Tarantino ever done a sci-fi movie?
Not that I can recall. I mean, he hasn't done that many movies, to be fair, and he's got such a unique style to him that it's just such a weird thing to even consider.
What world are we
melding his style with the Star Trek aesthetic and tone and feel? I gotta imagine it's going to be insane. So I for one hope this thing comes together. I think he's working on a movie now. It's not about the Charles Manson murders, but I think it's set around that time and kind of deals with the world at that time. So Tarantino he's such an interesting director, and I mean, most of his movies are incredible.
Oh no, he's definitely he's awesome. I like Tarantino. I can't think of a bad Tarantino movie. I mean,
I will point to Death Proof as my one example of.
Oh fuck! Well, I didn't.
What are you doing there, buddy?
I didn't see that one, so I guess that might be fair.
Yeah, that's really the only one though. I mean, everything else he's done it's in varying levels of good, but and often reaching incredible. Inglourious Bastards, Pulp Fiction. What else has he done?
Jackie Brown,
Reservoir
Dogs.
Yep.
Kill Bill, fucking Kill Bill, man.
Yeah.
Don't leave out Kill Bill.
Like I said, all varying levels of good, and I could definitely say that I like one more than I like the other, but they're all good.
Django.
Mm-hmm. Hateful Eight was actually really good too.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see this. This is what I'm saying.
Add Star Trek to that resume.
Yeah, well, potentially. I said it sounds like they're trying to go full steam ahead with this thing, but it still sounds like they got to write the damn thing and before it actually goes anywhere. So I said he's working on another movie. So I think if this does indeed become a thing, then it's at least a few years away. But I'm definitely buying tickets for opening night if this thing comes together. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So. All right. So we're getting to probably a little bit more normal news, if you want to put it that way. Well, I don't know if this is normal exactly, but
it shouldn't be.
It's normal for these days. Let's put it that way. So Bryan Singer, probably. I mean, he's directed most of the X-Men movies. Did a couple other things about Valkyrie. He's been working on Bohemian Rhapsody, which is kind of a biopic about Freddie Mercury, starring Mr. Robot's Rami Malek. I think we talked many weeks back about they showed a picture of Rami Malek as Freddie, and it looks great. Basically, the reports indicate that Singer basically went AWOL from the shoot over at London. Hadn't shown up for a few days. Basically, Fox is just we're done. So they fired him. So he's done. Since then, basically, Bryan Singer has in his statement basically said that the disputes that he had with the cast on set, which was part of the reports, weren't true, that he had family issues back home that he was dealing with. I think it's a smokescreen, given that, let's just say there's been a few accusations levied his way. And to be fair, there's always been a cloud around Bryan Singer. There's always been rumors about him soliciting underage boys or kind of grooming them, I guess, at little Hollywood parties he throws and stuff like that. And I don't know that there hasn't been any action taken against him. I mean, Fox was comfortable enough to have him do Apocalypse, come on to this movie, initially anyway. And it sounds like, obviously, in the wake of all the other accusations and everything going around in Hollywood, that perhaps things have finally caught up with him. I know there's a couple accusations that were put out more recently, within the past week or so, but it kind of sounds like he's done, which, as is the case with Kevin Spacey and a couple of the other folks that have been named. Yeah, I think that's probably the right move.
That's well deserved, right?
So he's been replaced already as the director of Bohemian Rhapsody, Dexter Fletcher. I'm not really familiar with his work. I think most recently he did Eddie the Eagle, I think with Taron Egerton and Hugh Jackman, which I recall getting pretty good reviews. Didn't actually see it myself, but he's coming on board to, I guess, finish up the movie.
This is pretty much all in post, right?
No, this is still filming.
Is it really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
According to the IMDb, it said that it was in post. Well, we'll see what happens with it. I know it was panning out to look pretty awesome, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, we'll see. Moving over to something that basically originated from Bryan Singer back all the way in 2000. the X-Men universe. We're getting another X-Men movie, another mainline entry called X-Men Dark Phoenix, and Bryan Singer is not directing this one. The directorial reins have been handed over to Simon Kinberg, who I think has written a couple of them. I think he produced Apocalypse. So Entertainment Weekly, basically, there's a few pictures that they showed showing Sophie Turner as Phoenix. She's got some fiery hair. We see some outer space things going on. Jessica Chastain playing the villain, some blonde hair, and a couple other little images. You get a chance to look at these?
Yeah, man, I think it looks pretty cool. People infused with fire always looks pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that they seem to be taking this into outer space. This might be a short-lived venture into this world, given that it seems like that Disney and Fox deal is very close to happening. I'm reading that it might happen before Christmas, so in the next couple weeks it could be coming through, and I would think that would spell an end for this Fox X-Men world that they'd crafted. I would have to imagine that if Marvel Studios can get their hands on those X-Men rights, then Kevin Feige and company would they're
going to run with it.
I think they do a clean reset. I mean, they're obviously going to use it, but I don't really see them taking this universe and combining it with theirs. I think that they'll probably just opt to kind of do their own thing with it.
Should make it fascinating. If they do reset, do you think that you'll see a if I'm not mistaken, they have plans for after of course they have plans for after
Avengers 4?
Yes. Do you think if they acquire Fox before a lot of that stuff gets starts production, do you think that you'll see a change in the timeline or the timelines that they have planned out for the coming movies after?
Oh yeah, I think it'll definitely impact their release schedule for sure. I mean, you look at what happened with Spider-Man. Basically, once they got Sony to work with them so they could create Homecoming, basically Homecoming slid into the schedule and a few things got pushed back. I know Black Panther got pushed back. I think it would have been around Ragnarok's release date. Instead, it's in February now. Captain Marvel, I think, got bumped a year or so, or like half a year at least to the following year. So I definitely think that in a post-Avengers 4, instead of getting perhaps some more out there stuff that they the lesser known properties, instead of adapting those, I think we'll definitely start getting more X-Men movies.
That'd be great.
I think that's definitely in the works. I mean, it basically sounds like this Fox deal. It's going to happen one way or another. It's just a matter of who the buyer is going to be. So I think Comcast is probably the other big name that's kind of looking at buying them, and their movie studio arm would be Universal, so you could potentially be looking at Universal having X-Men movies instead, which doesn't really change anything in terms of Marvel, but it sounds like Disney is kind of the favored buyer, so we'll be tracking that, obviously. And then as far as Dark Phoenix, it's still going to happen one way or another. I think I actually don't know when this is coming out, actually. Probably should have looked that up, but it's next year sometime, I would assume summer.
November 2nd, 2018.
Oh, really? Okay, it's a November movie. Interesting. I guess New Mutants is early in the year, so...
To be fair, that's according to Nerdist.
They probably have sources on that, so... I don't really trust this franchise after Apocalypse, if we're going to be honest. I think Apocalypse was garbage.
The X-Men franchise has let us down a couple of times.
It has, but Logan was excellent, and so I think that... I hope that at least, if nothing else, this does the Dark Phoenix, or I guess just the Phoenix Saga, a lot more justice than whatever the fuck we got in X-Men The Last Stand, because that was not Phoenix. That was a piss poor interpretation of that. And of course that was Brett Ratner, who, a big surprise, also has accusations of his own that he's dealing with. So, we'll see. We'll see with this. All right, more superhero news.
More Disney news.
Yes, and that is correct. Kevin Feige, the president over at Marvel Studios, has confirmed that John Watts, who directed Spider-Man Homecoming, is going to be coming back for its sequel.
Very nice.
Tentatively titled Spider-Man Homecoming 2. That will almost certainly change, because that is not a good title. But it's set to start production in June of this upcoming year, and I'm really excited about that. I think Homecoming was an excellent film. Definitely the best Spider-Man movie we'd had in probably close to a decade.
It also insinuates that Spider-Man
will survive past Avengers.
Right. Of course, they could always don a different Spidey. Spider-Man in some capacity lives on.
I feel like Marvel, given the nature of the Marvel-Sony deal, I have a hard time seeing a scenario in which Marvel Studios is just like, yeah, we're going to kill him. You can't make any movies now, you bitches. Like, I don't really see that being the case. And Spider-Man is such a cash cow, of course, that especially given that you just cast a really young guy, and clearly they want to build probably decades around Tom Holland as Peter Parker Spider-Man.
He's a fantastic Spider-Man too. He's great. He nailed it.
He's my favorite interpretation of both Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
I'd agree with that for sure.
So I definitely think it would be a huge misstep to get rid of his character prematurely. I think that if we get an eventual replacement for Peter Parker, I still think that's many, many years down the line.
Right.
Doesn't mean they won't kill him in Avengers. And maybe they'll kill him in Avengers 3, and then Sony will shit their pants for about a year, and then Avengers 4, they'll bring him back. That'd be fun. But that's cool. Other Spider-Man news. We got a trailer for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is an animated film.
Holy shit.
That Sony is working on. And this isn't anything to do with Marvel Studios. This is Sony just, hey, we still have the Spider-Man rights. If we're not going to do a live-action movie, we'll do our own little Spider-Man movie. And this one looks fucking cool.
It does look cool. Did you notice the, not to get off on a tangent, it's related, but the art style on this trailer it looked incredible. Did you notice like the print dots?
Yeah.
Everywhere? It looked like it was almost pulled from the pages of a comic book.
Right, yeah, like an old school comic book.
Yeah, I thought that was a really neat.
Yeah, no, the visual style of this is incredible. I think this is really the first footage we've seen or anything along this. I don't think there's been any images or anything released prior, so I didn't really know what kind of style they were doing for this, but it looks astonishing. Like, I love this style, and this is focused on the Miles Morales version of Spider-Man, and presumably we're going to get some other incarnations of Spider-Man as well, given that it's about the Spider-Verse, which in the comics is just a big, huge story arc about every Spider-Man in existence coming together, including old Spider-Ham.
Ooh, you think you'll get your Gwen Stacy Spider-Woman?
She's really popular. I would think that's probably a fair assumption to make if that's kind of the way that they're taking this story. So I hope so. I hope we see 2099. I think that would be really cool. I like his design.
Right.
There's a lot of cool directions they could pull this movie into, and I like this to me seems like Sony gets it. This seems like they got some talented folks, Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Clearly didn't get along with Lucasfilm over the Han Solo movie, but they did the Jump Street movies. I think they worked on the Lego movie, and they're really talented filmmakers. And obviously, the visions clashed for Han Solo or whatever the case may be. But I think that the energy that they're bringing to this, it seems like a really good fit. And so I'm excited for this one.
Oh no, it definitely looks intriguing. It looks like it's going to be fucking cool. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of trailers this week.
We did. Yeah, I said at the top is just a lot of stuff, and it's all relevant. There's just a lot of trailers of stuff that we'll probably eventually cover. And so then the next one, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, got its first trailer. This, of course, is the fifth, Jurassic Park entry, and this one's a direct sequel to Jurassic World.
Right.
So what'd you think about this trailer?
I don't know. It looked like a Jurassic Park movie.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I guess I like the setting of having it in a theme park. I thought Jurassic World did a good job of kind of bringing it back to where the original Jurassic Park had it. And it had issues of its own, obviously, but I thought it was a pretty fun movie.
Right.
This trailer for me didn't really do anything, though.
No, it didn't do anything with...
It just seemed like a bunch of CG dinosaurs running around. It was kind of the thing I got out of it. Really the only thing that raised an eyebrow for me is Jeff Goldblum being back. I enjoyed that.
Everybody enjoys Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. I don't know. I said I liked Jurassic World well enough, and I'm definitely interested in the sequel happening, but I think the way this trailer was edited, I think kind of felt off to me.
I don't think that
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
You go ahead.
I got the impression that they wanted to bring Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard back because they wanted the continuity with Jurassic World, but just from what I could tell from this trailer, it doesn't really seem like their characters have any business being there.
No, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say the whole trailer seemed contrived. Like, if it follows the plot beats that the trailer sets out, that it lays out for you, it all just seems kind of, I don't know. It all seems contrived to me. It doesn't seem very gripping.
Yeah. I said I want to chalk that up to just the way that the trailer was edited, but it could just be that there's not a whole lot to work with, so this is what they put out. I don't know. I'll see it. of course I'm going to see it. I will be curious to see if this does as much money at the box office as the first one did. I mean, the first one was a massive, gargantuan hit.
Bonkers.
So I will be curious to see if this can replicate that. But yeah, and not terribly enthused by the trailer, I will say. But another trailer is Alita Battle Angel, based off of the Battle Angel Alita manga. This is coming to us from Robert Rodriguez, and it's produced by James Cameron. I actually thought that this looked pretty interesting.
That's the best way to put it.
With the major caveat that I don't know what they're thinking with the design of the main character. Like, I understand that it's a trailer, and obviously this movie is a good 6 months away from being released, but the way that they designed the character, I guess it's being portrayed via mocap. I don't understand why you couldn't just have her physically present and it just as herself, rather. I mean, obviously she's physically present. That's kind of the whole thing of mocap, but she just looks like a very anime, big eyes and stuff. And it just doesn't, I mean, it looks bad.
And the villains, it goes for the villains too.
Yeah, all the robot-looking characters. Yeah, I guess they're cyborgs. I'm sure.
It almost in some where there's no, if you were to watch the trailer without any actual humans and it was only the robots, you would think it was like something like that Final Fantasy movie that came out all those years ago.
Spirits Within, man.
Yeah. I don't know what, like you said, it makes you wonder if is it unfinished CG or is it like just the style that they're going for? Is that the way is that the way the robots look in this universe? I don't know.
Well, it's weird. It doesn't visually blend well.
No,
and I think that's the issue, is that maybe it's not the quality of the CG. I mean, I think it is the quality of the CGI. Actually, I think that's kind of the principal issue, and so I'm not going to hold that against the movie right now until I see the final product, because again, it is so many months away that they've got a lot of time, and I'm sure they're still actively working on all the kind of the effects work on this leading up to the release date. So, I think the actual content of the trailer I thought looked pretty interesting, certainly compared to Jurassic World.
It was a well-made trailer.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like the world seemed interesting. It's got a good cast in it: Christoph Waltz, Jennifer Connelly, Mahershala Ali. All looks pretty interesting. I'm curious about this, and I mean, I'll definitely see it. I say that about everything. I'll definitely see it.
Well, why not? You have a movie pass.
Yeah, for now. I hope that either there's an end universe explanation for why everyone looks the way they do, or they just correct the CG by the time it releases so that it looks better.
Right.
Yeah.
Ready Player One, speaking of a trailer that's fully rooted in CG.
Right. Well, and this is an interesting juxtaposition to kind of pose here, in the sense that, okay, so we got this poster and trailer for Ready Player One, just to kind of get our listeners up to speed. But, within Ready Player One, within this trailer that we see this fully video game-esque world that's entirely CG, but it looks intentionally so. It looks obviously CG compared to certainly the live action aspects of this movie, but I think that the contrast works better in the Ready Player One trailer, because it doesn't seem like there's an intentional story structure reason for why it looks the way it does in the CG world versus something like Alita Battle Angel, where it just kind of seems like, I don't think it's intended to be that way. I think it's just a matter of the CG just kind of not being up to snuff just yet.
Or it just might be the art style of the like you said, she looks like an anime character. It might just be the art style in it.
Yeah, maybe it's just a general uncanny valley effect going on. That's definitely within the realm of possibility. But anyway, Ready Player One.
I'm excited.
I really like this trailer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of nostalgia type things that it looks like it's going to hit on. I think did you see Tracer running around in there?
I saw Tracer. Yeah, you got the shit. I was going to say El Camino, but it's definitely not an El Camino. What is it? It's the DeLorean. You see the DeLorean?
Yeah, the DeLorean.
Iron Giant.
You want to say King Kong?
King Kong, yeah.
So I think a lot of that stuff's going to be really fun to play with, but I actually thought in terms of kind of the movie itself, I thought it looked pretty interesting. And I liked the visual style here. The real world aesthetic part of it I actually thought looks really cool. I like that part. And then obviously the video game world, Oasis, I guess is what it's called. It's obviously very video gamey looking, but it seems like there's a lot of craziness going on in there. I think that could make for some really compelling sequences. And
after the first trailer, it always looked intriguing, but the first trailer left me wondering what's the plot gonna be? You know what I mean? How's it gonna propel the story forward?
Yeah, well, we definitely got more of that.
Yeah, And I think it sounds like it could be a solid, fun movie, you know? So I'm thoroughly excited. I thought it was a well-made trailer. I think it looks good. It looks fun. And I'm ready to see some Ready Player One in IMAX. I will definitely see that in IMAX.
Yeah, this definitely looks like an IMAX movie. It looks like a visual feast. I'm excited about this. Steven Spielberg, I mean, you know, it seems like Steven Spielberg, I guess for recent years, has been content to do kind of your Oscar bait type movies to varying levels of success. But this kind of seems like more of a throwback to him kind of pushing the boundaries and getting a little crazy with it. So I'm excited. Let's see here. Okay, all right, that's it for the film news. Quite a lengthy list there, but we got some TV news we want to touch on as well. So over in the world of Netflix, we got an announcement trailer for Altered Carbon.
Yeah,
which is I guess a sci-fi TV show that Netflix is working on, and it's right around the corner. It's coming out February 2nd, is what they announced. 10 episodes. It's got Joel Kinnaman, old Rick Flag himself. This is Katana. She got my back.
Cut you down like cutting the lawn.
I would advise not getting killed by her. Her sword traps the souls of its victims.
Jesus.
Can we go an episode without talking about Suicide Squad or Iron Fist? I think not.
At least we're consistent.
We are. We hate what we hate and we like what we like, all right?
That's it.
But Altered Carbon, this kind of came out of nowhere for me.
I didn't know about it until you sent me the link.
Yeah, it's an adaptation of a 2002 book, and I thought this trailer looked fucking awesome.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Like, this is immediately on my radar. I mean, it's in my wheelhouse, just kind of the nature of it, but I thought visually it looks really, really interesting, and looks like Netflix put some serious dollars into this one, or at least the production team knows how to maximize their dollars.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's it definitely. It packs a punch. The trailer was,
and it was pretty short too. I mean, it was one I saw was only like a minute long, but it was enough there that I'm like, fuck yeah.
It's just the way it was written, man. The trailer was written really well. I mean, it was a teaser too, right? Was it a trailer or a teaser?
Yeah, it was an announcement trailer is what they call it. So I think it's just kind of a, hey, this is coming, get ready.
Yeah, well, it got me ready. I'm pumped. I'm excited about it.
Oh shit! I just saw some really exciting news.
What's that?
Miguel Sapochnik directed the first episode of it. This is the guy that did Battle of the Bastards.
Oh.
And The Winds of Winter and Hard Home on Game of Thrones.
Very nice.
This guy's pedigree is ridiculous. So I'm thinking that first episode might have some shit going down. I think that would be excellent. So really excited about that one now. Like I said, it wasn't on my radar before. Now it is very much on my radar and is slotting into things that we will probably cover, for being honest.
Yeah, no, I'd be down to cover that for sure.
Mm-hmm. We'll keep tabs on it. All right. What else? Marvel.
Back to Disney.
Actually, everything else that we have for our news is all Marvel related, to be fair. Looking at our list here. Marvel announced a big animated project called Marvel Rising. So they're going to start with, I guess, a bunch of digital shorts. I assume that will probably be released online. Kind of about Gwen Stacy, Spider-Woman. She's being called Ghost Spider here for some reason. I don't know what's up with that, but I guess she's kind of the focal point for that. And then they're going to do a big an animated film, basically with a bunch of characters from, like I said, Spider-Gwen, Squirrel Girl, Quake,
Daisy Johnson, yeah.
Yep, Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel, and a few others as well. So I assume that'll probably be a direct to either online or Blu-ray type release. I don't know if it'll get a theatrical release, but this little project here looks really fun to me. A lot of really cool characters they're playing around with here. And the voice cast they've assembled, I think, is pretty impressive. You know, they got Chloe Bennett back to reprise her role as Quake from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Dove Cameron as Gwen Stacy, Milana Vaintrub, Squirrel Girl. She's also going to be doing Squirrel Girl in the New Warriors show that they're working on, and this whole little project seems really cool.
Yeah, man.
So, other Marvel news: Iron Fist, the immortal Iron Fist, sworn enemy of the Hand, protector of Kunlun, is getting a season 2, and Alice Eve will be joining the cast of it.
Well, she'll immediately make the show better, man.
Well, it'd be hard for it to get worse, so I agree. She was in Star Trek Into Darkness, which I mentioned earlier. She was Carol Marcus in that, and then promptly disappeared for its sequel. She did a couple of... She's Out of My League. It's probably a good reference point. I really like that movie. It's just an offhand remark, man. I do like that movie. It's a fun movie, all right? But it doesn't say who she's going to be playing in this. I feel like she could be a pretty cool villain if they wanted to kind of take it that route. But he said there's not really much else to add, given that we don't know
anything
about her role. But it's a good get, definitely a good get. Sounds like everyone that was on season 1's coming back. I guess excited for Harold.
Harold's not coming back, is he?
Harold Meacham will not be returning for a second season.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I bought you cinnamon wheat ice cream.
Yeah, I greatly enjoyed David Wenham's presence, but I think he probably signed up knowing it was a 1-season commitment, and he's probably very glad that he did. I'll still watch it.
Of course.
My hope is that it will be better. You know, they changed the showrunner. They got Scott Buck out the door. So hopefully it will be a better season. Hopefully they can at least course correct somewhat. I think Defenders did a decent job of trying to course correct at least somewhat Danny's character. At least they acknowledged that he was an idiot and just played with him as such instead of trying to make him like come off as like a badass, because he's obviously not.
Well, he needs to kick at least as much ass as Frank Castle. I mean, as far as the martial arts goes, I mean, he should be. Flipping around, kicking and punching and shit.
If you put Frank Castle and Danny Rand in the same room,
it's over.
Theoretically, Danny Rand should be able to kick his ass, or at least stand toe-to-toe with him. That would obviously not happen and with these iterations. I mean, well, of course, Frank would probably just pull out a gun and shoot him point blank, but given that they were in hand-to-hand combat, Frank would absolutely clown his ass, and that's not acceptable. So I agree. Hopefully they can get him to a point where he can stand, toe-to-toe with anyone in the room, which is where he should have been in the first place, given that he spent, 15 years just doing nothing but training? Right. What were you doing the whole time, you dickhead? What were you doing? Anyway, other Marvel Netflix series, Jessica Jones. We got a little trailer for it, not very long, maybe 45 seconds or so, shows some footage from season 2, and they set a premiere date for that as March 8th of 2018, International Women's Day.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Probably not a coincidence, but a smart move. And I don't know that the footage really showed us anything we haven't seen, just could PIing about and jumping around and stuff like that. But
she's gonna find out how she got her powers, I guess, right? Or that's the end game.
Yeah, I would assume so. I don't think this trailer really showed anything along those lines, but I definitely think that they were pushing in that direction. They had the whole IGH kind of story thread that they kind of started with, possibly how she got her powers, and when they brought Nuke in, kind of halfway through the season, and had him as a big antagonist. So I think that he might be returning for this. But I'm excited. I mean, I rewatched season 1 after we had talked about it in one of our very, very early episodes, and I really liked season 1. Definitely think it's one of the better Marvel Netflix entries that they've put together, and I'm excited that this is coming back and coming back so soon at that. March is, as you said, it's not very far away. So yeah, looks good. I think that's it for the news this week. So you know what it's time for now, right?
Our main feature.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Andrew.
Oh, hi.
Yes, our main feature, the disaster artist. So this is, for those who aren't aware, it's based on a book, also called The Disaster Artist, quote unquote, My Life Inside the Room, the Greatest Bad Movie Ever Made. So it's based on this book, which was based on the author Greg Sestero's experiences working on the movie The Room, which, again, I think I kind of talked about it briefly at the beginning of the episode. It's probably one of it might very well be the worst movie ever made. I mean, it is absolutely terrible. It is ridiculously bad. I mean, it's impressively bad. And its incompetence, but there's a lot of heart to the, I guess, kind of the production of the movie. I don't know that it necessarily shines through in the movie itself, but I think it was coming from kind of the right place. And so this movie, The Disaster Artist, basically kind of tells, I guess, sort of a condensed version of the behind-the-scenes tale of how Greg Sestero, who ended up writing the book, basically met Tommy Wiseau, who is the actor, producer, writer, and director of The Room. How they met and how they kind of formed this friendship that basically eventually resulted in this movie being made. And it's directed by James Franco, who plays Tommy Wiseau in the movie. His brother Dave Franco plays Greg Sestero. And it's got a lot of also really impressive names actually involved too. Seth Rogen, Alison Brie, Zac Efron, Josh Hutcherson, just a lot of really fun characters, or a lot of really fun actors involved. Some are just kind of there for a little cameo appearance and stuff like that. But it's a really good movie. For something based around a really bad movie, it's pretty impressive that they made such a good movie about it. And maybe because the story behind it is so fascinating, it's more fascinating to know the story behind it than it is to actually see the final product. But
Right.
I really enjoyed this one. I'll kind of touch on it a little bit, that my screening was probably a little bit more involved, I guess, than some. So that probably made me like the movie a little bit more than.
Certainly contributed to it.
Yeah, definitely. It enhanced my experience anyway. But I'm curious to see how you liked this. I think when we talked about it, kind of the tail end of our last episode, you had not watched The Room. I assume you did not bother to watch The Room. So
No, I did not.
right. So I mean, kind of how'd you feel about it?
I enjoyed it. I thought the humor was well done. It's a very well made movie. I didn't know how to feel about the characters. In some cases I felt conflicted about the characters because I didn't know to laugh, or I didn't know to kind of feel bad or what have you. So in that sense, I think they probably did a really good job of the characterization, because everybody felt very natural. It felt like you were watching a movie about these people. And like I said, the movie's very well made. The humor is top notch. It's a very funny movie. I laughed my ass off the whole movie, and when I left, I don't know how to feel about it. You know what I mean? Because I don't know how to feel about these people. So there's that. It's very funny though. It made me laugh more than I can remember laughing, and I can't remember the last time I laughed this much at a movie. Especially in theaters. I don't think we've covered any comedy movies this year on the podcast.
Thor was probably an action comedy if you wanted to characterize it as such.
Well, I laughed more in this than I did Thor. I can tell you that.
But, how did your audience respond to it? Did it seem like there was a lot of enjoyment?
It was actually packed. I saw it last night, and I would say that it's probably not. I don't know when this movie was released. Was it released on Friday night or Thursday?
I think it expanded. Yeah, Friday.
Okay, my theater was packed. I saw it at the old Movie Co, and it was pretty packed, and everybody seemed to thoroughly enjoy it. I know that groups of people gathered. There were little clumps of people as we walked out the theater, sitting there talking by the movie posters and stuff in the aisleway leading up to the theater, and they were talking about the source material and that. So I think if you watched the original movie or read the book, I think you'd probably walk away with a lot more out of it than I did. I walked away kind of feeling bad for the main character and his friend, and I'm just thoroughly intrigued by Tommy Wiseau.
Yes, he's always been a fascinating person, and like I said, I mean, I wouldn't blame anyone for not putting themselves through the hour and 40 minutes that is The Room. But again, it's such a fascinating movie, and it's so bad that it transcends being unwatchable to the point where it is one of the funniest movies I think you could watch. I don't know that it really lands as well if you're kind of watching on your own. I think maybe if you go to I think they do screenings of it pretty often.
Yeah,
I think if you went to a screening with it with people that are obviously kind of familiar with it, I feel like that would be a really fun way to enjoy it. I've never actually done that myself. I kind of sat through it on my own and was just kind of like, oh man, this is real bad, but I'm still cracking up. And I always see the there's a lot of YouTube clips and stuff like that, so you could at least kind of see that. But I think this movie did a good job of at least showing you enough of the movie itself and how the movie was made and kind of the final product to get you keyed in on this is what the movie's like. Even if you haven't seen the whole thing, like it really kind of shows you a lot of the aspects of it whether it's the super awkward sex scenes or just the weird humor. Ha ha ha! What a story, Mark. You know. So I for one really really enjoyed this movie. And as I mentioned, I went to a screening with a lot of folks that were clearly very familiar with the source material. And, you know, anytime Tommy just went, ha, 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 people just fucking died in the theater. I don't know if he had the same kind of reception there, but just little Tommy moments. People were absolutely loving it. And so by extension, I was loving it. And I think that the reason that I had so many, I think probably fans of The Room walking into it is that, weirdly enough, Greg Sestero, writer of the book himself, you know, the original Mark from The Room, was present for the screening itself, and he actually had a live question and answer session after that, and a little meet and greet session as well.
That's ridiculous. I can't believe that happened at that little theater.
Yeah, just like a little indie theater, 2-screen theater, 5 minutes away from me. So I, of course, had to do it. And he said that, you know, the movie was received really well. And, you know, Greg went on stage for about a 30-minute Q&A after that. And it was really fascinating to have people kind of pick his brain about his experiences working on The Room and kind of a couple other things. He actually just filmed another movie with Tommy called Best Friends that he wrote himself. So I'm really fascinated by that. It's supposed to come out next year. And so that was really awesome.
What did he have to say about Tommy? Did he, I mean, surely, you know, there were a lot of questions about Tommy, right?
Well, it's just a lot of questions about like Tommy's kind of nature. Like, you know, like, well, did you ever figure out where he made his money? And he basically said that, you know, he has various theories about kind of how he got so much money because the Room ended up costing about $6 million or so, all told, which when you watch the movie itself, and you can see it within the Disaster Artist, like, where the fuck is that money going? And he said that the cast wasn't very well paid for it. He kind of said that Tommy thought that everyone would just be happy that they're working on a, you know, big Hollywood movie. And so they weren't really paid well as a result.
He bought all the fucking cameras, though, apparently.
He did. Yeah, that, and again, I'll kind of touch on it a little bit more. I think probably in spoilers might be best reserved for that. But there's a lot of things in this movie that is 100% accurate to the real story. Some of it's kind of, you know, not quite right. Some of it's kind of stretched or condensed to kind of make a more Hollywoodized version of the story that you know was an hour and a half long versus kind of where I think the book kind of goes a lot more in depth with a lot of stuff on it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was just a really fascinating session to hear him talk about kind of filming The Room and just really kind of how he's dealt with, you know, the 15 years after it's been released and, you know, being involved in something so terrible that it's basically marked him for the rest of his life. But at the same time, it's kind of become such a big cult film that, you know, he's and not only him, but Tommy are kind of embraced for it. And, you know, the movie kind of touches on, I think Tommy probably always intended it as a serious feature, and it's kind of taken on a very different life since its release. And you know, Tommy claims now that, you know, he always intended it to be like a black comedy film, which I don't think is entirely true. And I think Greg even mentioned as much as that, you know, Tommy legitimately thinks it's a great movie.
Oh, see, that's where I start to feel bad.
Right. Well, at the same time, though, I mean, I think the affection for Tommy, and certainly the affection that Greg has for Tommy is genuine. And I think that that's why this movie works, is that there's a lot of heart to this movie, and I think that originates from the heart. I mean, I think Tommy Wiseau, I mean, yeah, he's such a mysterious figure, sure, but I think that there's a lot of genuine connection between him and Greg, both in real life and as depicted in the movie itself. And I think that's kind of what shines through, is that it's a really kind of surprisingly sweet story of their friendship and kind of making your dreams come true, even if maybe that wasn't such a good idea.
They did, though. They made a real Hollywood movie, and it's not critically acclaimed, but it's got a fan base, which is...
Well, interestingly enough, The Disaster Artist is critically acclaimed. I think it's sitting at like 94% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, so critics are definitely loving this.
It's a well-made movie.
Room is not definitely sitting up there. Like I said, it's such a fascinating story that I guess maybe it's not surprising. Like, you know, like if, again, anyone that has watched The Room, or if you end up watching The Room at some point, in the back of your mind, you can be like, what the hell is happening here? And Greg basically said it himself, you know, it's fascinating that people have kind of responded to a movie that is effectively about people walking in and out of doors for 2 hours.
Is that what he said in the Q&A?
Yeah, which is very accurate. That's a paraphrase of it, but it was really, like I said, it was a really enjoyable experience to be able to pick his brain. And then he had a meet and greet session afterwards, so I got to shake his hand, talk to him for not very long, just say, hey, thanks for coming out. And like I said, it was kind of weird that he'd be in Jacksonville of all places on opening, or I guess nationwide opening weekend of The Disaster Artist. But I got a book signed by him, personalized for me.
Did you actually have the book?
No, he was selling the book, so I had to buy it.
Oh, okay. You bought the book and then had him sign it. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was a really cool experience. And I said, I think that definitely enhanced my viewing of this movie. And for him to kind of hang out at a theater for half his day, for basically his entire Saturday night, was really awesome of him. And
how do you think Dave Franco personified the legitimate Greg?
Well, I mean, certainly in terms of kind of, I mean, it's tough because, the Greg that I saw answering questions is a Greg that's been through 15 years of nothing but dealing with the room. So I think he's definitely a pretty different person than the naive Greg that we see that Dave Franco portrays. Babyface, yeah, definitely very different than the babyface that we see in the movie. So that's kind of a hard question to answer, I think.
That's fair.
But like I said, in terms of the movie itself, I think that Dave Franco did a really good job as Greg. But moreover, James Franco was fucking absolute perfection as Tommy Wiseau.
No, it's startling.
It's crazy. And I thought that, the kind of look that he, the getup that he had to kind of make himself look more like Tommy might distract me throughout the movie, but I definitely bought into his performance pretty much from the get-go. He said Tommy is he's such a larger than life figure. Like, Tommy lives on his own planet. I think they kind of talk about that in the movie and stuff. And it's so true because he does seem like he very well may be an alien. Like, I don't know if it's been scientifically proven that he's not. And I would definitely subscribe to that theory if I had to subscribe to any one theory. But I thought James Franco was fucking brilliant in this. And I saw that, he directed this movie, and I've seen some kind of interviews and basically said that he directed the movie as Tommy, which for me, like, I want to see the Blu-ray immediately. I got to see the Blu-ray immediately just so I can see that. Hopefully they did a little making of spying on his own set. That would be pretty fun.
I know what all you say. I know.
Yeah.
I hear your whispers. I see your soul.
And again, I think that, like you said, I think you're kind of like conflicted about, well, are they making fun of him, or are they? I think there's elements of that wherever. But I think that really, certainly in the case of, I guess, both James and Dave Franco, I think they've kind of embraced the weirdness that is Tommy Wiseau and this whole storyline. And I think that I think it's really endearing. Obviously it's definitely a hilarious movie, but I think that there's enough heart, not only to the friendship between Tommy and Greg, but also in terms of just bringing Tommy to life and in a way that, everyone, kind of laughs when he says things, but there is, kind of moments in the movie where, you do kind of like, well, everyone kind of sees him as this, weirdo. And
no, he's a nice guy. He's a real guy.
Yeah. Like I said, even in making this movie, which again, terrible movie, but mad respect to that guy for kind of putting his everything into it, and and his weirdness just kind of translates so well into the movie. Like, you can just see that, this is the guy that, I don't know. He's such a mysterious figure that, how did this movie become the way that it is? Like, he's such an interesting character, and I thought that Franco did such an excellent job as portraying him, but not making it about just making fun of him for being weird or out there or anything like that.
No, he tried to be Tommy, and that's one thing that, like I said, I didn't have any reference to the source material, but I walked away feeling like I knew these characters. They felt like very real people. And speaking of characters and people, there's a group of scenes there in where there's a drug dealer.
Yeah.
And he's got like this handlebar mustache, and he's all ripped, and he's screaming and punching the walls. This guy's trying to get into character because they're fixing to film a scene with him. And I said, "Holy shit, is that Zac Efron?" And I leaned over because I went to go see the movie with somebody, and I leaned over and I said, "Is that Zac Efron?" They said, "No, that's not Zac Efron." I said, "No, that's total. I think that's Zac Efron." And it wasn't until the end of the movie where you see it was Zac Efron, and Zac Efron killed that shit, man. He was.
Everyone in here is fucking amazing. Like I said, there's a lot of big names, or at least a lot of recognizable faces that show up for maybe a scene or two at that. But
You're a monster.
yeah, he's playing Chris R. Which, and again, a lot of this stuff is even funnier when you can compare it back to the actual sequences in The Room. So there's the character in the room that's the drug dealer, and his character's name is Chris R. Not just Chris R. And he must always be referred to as Chris R. Efron just is amazing in this very bit role, and everyone else is just great. Josh Hutcherson plays Denny, who's kind of how old is this character supposed to be?
I'm 26.
Yeah, it's again a lot. I mean, and the funny thing is, a lot of that humor is just derived from this. That's actually just how it was. Like that's what happened. Who else is in this? It's great. Bob Odenkirk, fucking. Saul Goodman showed up for like a little bit there. I said there's a lot of people there that just kind of like, obviously, I think that's kind of the fun thing about someone like James Franco being involved in a lot of these social circles is you get a lot of these people that I'll just show up for a day on set. And I didn't think it took me out of the movie. I thought that kind of added that, there's just a lot of really fun, recognizable faces that only had like one bit scene to kind of work with, but I think they were all really great in what they did bring to the table.
It almost contributed to the whole aura of making Hollywood movie. You know what I mean? You get all these people that show up, and I don't know, you can tell that the movie was crafted with a lot of heart, and I don't know, I think it kind of almost, like I said, metaphorically added to the experience, because like I said, they're all Hollywood people, they're all big stars, and they're all involved, and I don't know, it's just it was a good experience, and it was a very well made. Let me ask you something: is this considered it's not a documentary? What type of film is this?
I guess it's a biopic, if you want to.
Is it a biopic?
Classify it. It's definitely a biographical film in some ways. I think it's not just that, obviously. I think it's certainly comedic in nature, principally, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, I'd say it's at least biographical in nature.
But only because the people are comedic in nature.
Right. I mean, I'd say it's 100% based on a true story. It's not 100% accurate, and it does condense certain things. But it's definitely biographical. So I think that's a fair thing to say about it.
How would you recommend this movie?
Well, it's interesting. I know, as someone familiar with The Room, I loved this movie, and I'd say that 100%, if you have any sort of familiarity with that, you have to go see this movie. Like, it is a marvel to behold, because it adds so much to I think probably kind of any reading that you might have of The Room. So that's where I stand on it. That's kind of my perspective on it. I would say, and I think you'll probably be able to elaborate on this more, at least with your opinion. If you haven't seen The Room, if you don't really have any familiarity with it, I think it still works as a comedy. I think that you have an enhanced viewing, certainly if you have seen it, but I don't think it's necessarily required viewing. I think there's enough contained within the movie to get you up to speed with kind of what the movie is, what it's about, anything like that, to kind of make it work principally as a comedy. And I think there's a lot of heart to, like I said, the relationship between these two principal characters in it that I think makes for a really sweet. It's a sweet story about these two friends kind of coming together, pushing through adversity, and kind of doing their own thing. And I think my overall recommendation is go see this in theaters. I think if you have familiarity, you'll enjoy it more. But even if you don't, I think it's still worth checking out. I mean, where do you land on that?
I'd agree with that. I think if you enjoy the nature of a biopic, or I don't know, it feels like a very authentic experience. It's a very well made movie. And for that alone, especially, like I said, I went and saw it, and there was a group of people that you could tell that other people have seen The Room, and for experiencing a movie that people feel so passionately about, I think it's worth seeing. There's a bit there in the very beginning of the movie where you have some headline stars commenting on the original movie, The Room, and it transcended the experience a little bit, because you could tell that other people in the theater that I watched it with anyways related to it, you know what I mean? Because they've obviously seen it, and just experiencing something like that was pretty unique. So in the sense that you go to the theater to have an experience, I would say that this movie definitely does that. If that's not the case, say, for example, you go and see it a couple weeks after it's released and nobody's seeing it and you're in there by yourself, it's still a very well-made movie that feels very authentic, and I think it's probably worth seeing in the theaters. I think it's a very well-made movie. It's good. It's a good movie. You'll laugh your ass off, I promise you that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we're going to briefly touch on spoilers. I don't think there's a whole lot to get into, but full spoilers for The Disaster Artist. He said not a whole lot here to kind of get into, but I did kind of want to touch on how much of it was kind of true to life versus what was kind of either condensed or kind of changed for the movie. So I was just this is just kind of between listening to Greg talking about in that Q&A session I attended and just kind of stuff that I've seen online as well. So I mean, I think kind of for the most part it is. I think the front half of the movie is pretty close. It sounded like he and Tommy knew each other a little bit more before they ended up moving to LA. And Greg basically said that, when they moved down together, I guess Tommy stayed in the LA apartment for one night, but for the most part, Greg kind of lived there by himself for a good amount of the time. And he did pay rent. It seemed, and the movie kind of seemed like they framed it as, he kind of just stayed there rent free, but he said he did pay rent. He said it was $200 at first, then it was $300, then it was $400, then it was $500, and so most of that was pretty accurate. The stuff with his mom was all kind of true, kind of taken directly from the book.
Did he say where Greg lived, or not Greg, but where Tommy lived?
I think Tommy still lived in San Francisco. I think when he wasn't in LA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
But what else was there? I guess the whole thing with the Malcolm in the Middle thing wasn't entirely true. That was kind of just made up for the movie with Bryan Cranston.
Right.
And then I guess kind of the ending is probably kind of the biggest point where Greg basically said that, it was crickets for like half the movie, and then people started to kind of laugh. And I think even in the actual premiere, I think Tommy, you see Tommy kind of tearing up a little bit, that kind of hurt that people are laughing at his work. And then in the movie, by the end of it, he kind of comes around to people laughing at it and enjoying it, maybe not for the reasons that he intended. I think that's a little bit, it's not revisionist, I guess, but it's, I think that kind of captures what happened in the years beyond its release. But I think it was Greg saying at, the initial premiere that, I don't think he quite was so quick to accept the response. I think he was still kind of hurt by that. And it wasn't until, years after kind of people starting to enjoy the screenings that he kind of leaned into it being more of a comedy than being a serious romantic drama or anything like that.
Right.
So I think that was a little off. And he said, there's just certain aspects of it I think that were kind of condensed, just to kind of compress it into a reasonable movie length. But it definitely seemed to, I think Greg said that he was on set a few times a week, kind of involved with the production of it. So I think he was pretty closely involved with it, and I think he seemed pretty happy with it. And Tommy said that was it 99.9% accurate is what he said.
Right. He said the book Greg wrote was only 40% accurate.
Right. So I don't know exactly how the math works there, but maybe that's some Tommy math going on there. But there's probably a couple other things that I'm forgetting, but I figured that was kind of interesting. And he said that I think he said he does have some of the that footage that Tommy had the guy kind of run around and shoot. He said he has kind of like he has some footage from that still around.
So they're the two are still very close.
Right. Like I said, they did a movie. I think they might have shot it earlier this year called Best Friends, and it's a scripted movie. So they definitely seem like they get along. I think they still have this kind of friendship, definitely, since they've kind of formed it. I guess probably early 2000s or so. And Greg said that they did 25 minutes of recreated footage of the room because someone had asked, like, is there a full version of the movie? Like, did you guys just reshoot the whole thing? And I was kind of hoping that he would say yes and that we might see something like that on the Blu-ray. But I have to imagine we'll get. When we saw, at the end of the movie, there's they kind of show the side by side,
right,
of the actual footage versus.
I thought that was interesting.
Well, I mean, they did a really good job of recreating it. And like I said, that's kind of where for someone like you, where you haven't seen it, you're like, I feel like that's probably the moment where you key into the fact, like, oh shit, like, no, they definitely nailed it in terms of kind of recreating it and recapturing that. Would you agree?
Oh no, I would definitely agree. That was, I don't know, it's probably one of my favorite parts, actually.
Yeah, just seeing that side by side.
Yeah, no, it made the experience that much more authentic. You know what I mean? That they actually went through and recreated portions of the movie. So like I said earlier, there were quite a few spots in there where, like the scene where at the end where they're watching the movie and Tommy's having issues, he's dealing with it and felt kind of upset. I don't know. I felt for Tommy. You know what I mean? The scene where he starts, his friend starts having a girlfriend. He meets that girl at the bar,
right?
And he's no longer the center of attention anymore. And he kind of, I don't know. It feels like a very authentic experience, and I think that adds so much more to the movie.
Everybody betrayed me. I fed up with this world.
It's sad, It's actually, it's funny just because of the person that's saying it, but it's a really heartfelt experience. It's like I said, I'm really impressed with. I don't think I've ever watched a James Franco movie, but he fucking killed it with this one. It's a really
as in a James Franco directed movie.
Yeah, I don't think so. Have I ever seen one?
I don't know. I was confused by your statement. I was just like, you never seen James Franco in a movie? I don't think that's true.
No, I've seen James Franco in plenty of movies, but I don't think I've ever seen a directed James Franco movie.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I can't think of anything else. I'm sure he's done other stuff. Yeah,
I was looking at his IMDb, and he's directed quite a few. He started directing in 2005.
Okay,
but I don't think I've ever watched any. And I don't know how his other movies fare, but there's a lot of heart that goes into this movie, and you can feel it. A lot of times with documentaries, and most of the time with documentaries, you're watching movies with people in it, with the real people, and it very much feels that way with this movie.
Right.
It was a good experience. I'm happy I watched it. To be honest with you, I was a little skeptical about going to watch it, and I wasn't very enthused. I know last week we were talking about doing maybe another double feature with The Shape of Water, but turns out The Shape of Water came out, it's coming out a little bit later, and I felt thoroughly disappointed that this is the movie that we're going to watch. I didn't feel very excited about it. But I walked away feeling 100% completely different. It's a very well-made movie.
Yeah, I agree. Did you stay for the post-credit scene? I actually didn't realize there was going to be one.
No, I did not. I watched the pre-credit scene where they did the side-by-sides, but no, what was in the post-credit?
It's a rooftop scene between James Franco as Tommy Wiseau, and then Tommy Wiseau himself is actually, there's like a little fun conversation between the two of them where they're just kind of out-weirding each other. Yeah. You can probably search hard enough. You can probably find it online eventually, but I didn't know anything about it, and I obviously just kind of stayed in the theater because Greg was going to be there after the show, and I had no idea about it. Otherwise, I probably would have ended up leaving myself. But it's a fun little sequence, so yeah, I would check that out. And I guess I probably could have put that in our non-spoiler section to at least say that there's a post-credit scene. But hey, if you listen to this far and you're going to go see it, it's fun. Stick around for it. But yeah, I agree. I was excited about this one. Obviously, that was kind of a different perspective for me walking in, and I came away pretty enthused with what he got. So I think we ended up with the same response. We just walked in the door with different expectations and different feelings about it, and I think that's a mark of a good movie. So that is The Disaster Artist. What have you been up to this past week?
I will tell you what I've been up to. I watched an incredible fucking movie called Your Name. It's an anime movie, and I borrowed it from you. I will tell you that when we get together next week to watch Star Wars, I will give you this Blu-ray back, and your ass better watch it before we record next, because it is an incredible fucking movie. The animation, the writing, I mean, it's a heartfelt fucking cartoon movie. Man, it's really fucking good. Was that a release this year? Do you know? Or was that last year?
It's either, it's one of it's very recent. I think it might have been earlier this year though.
If it's earlier this year,
no, never mind. It was last year, 2016.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say that it's so good that it would be in my top 5 fucking movies for this year. It's an incredible movie. I really enjoyed it. Other than that, what have I been up to? I rewatched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. without falling asleep.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I did not catch up on the most recent episode. I've been watching a lot of Dragon Ball Super, which is still pretty cool. I did end up purchasing Rocket League on the Nintendo Switch, which is going to make the 3rd time I think I bought that video game. But it's currently downloading. I haven't had any time to play it on the Switch, but I think that's pretty much all I've been up to this week. What about you? I think you mentioned that you've been lazy the past 3 days and you've been doing a lot.
Yeah, I have been very lazy on my past few days off. Been taking full advantage of that. So I also watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, the 2-hour premiere that they did. I also watched the most recent episode, so I guess I'm one ahead of you there.
We could probably have a side discussion on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You want to have a side discussion on that as far as the premiere goes?
Yeah, we'll keep it brief, but yeah, the premiere. So we watched probably 10-15 minutes of it together last weekend and fell asleep.
Not to the detriment of the show.
No, not at all. Not at all. We were just super tired. I think both of us had been up since really early in the morning, and it was just a long day. But I think when I talked about it last week, I was just kind of like, I don't really know what's going on. I was kind of lost by it. And I think that was the intent, is that it doesn't really fill you in on it until 20 minutes in. It kind of you start to put the pieces together. And once you were able to put the pieces together, I fucking loved it.
It was fucking holy shit.
I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is great to begin with, but the balls on Jed Whedon and Marissa Tancharoen to basically take this show and just kind of reset it and let's just drop these characters into space for a few episodes at a time. Totally insane, but it totally works. It's really, really good. And actually, in some ways, it kind of reminded me of The Expanse in terms of kind of its setting with space colonies and stuff like that. And both of us love The Expanse, and I'm like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. plus The Expanse, this is everything I needed in my life. And it's so good. I love these characters. The setting is super interesting once I kind of wrapped my head around it.
It's like high sci-fi shit, man. I mean, it's seriously way the fuck out there, and it's awesome.
It's a legitimately great show, and that was a seriously great premiere. And I thought the third episode was also good. Less kind of whoa moments, I think, probably than the first couple episodes in terms of kind of where they've taken it and kind of the plot revelations that they've kind of put out there. But Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. space fighting Kree, it's awesome.
I agree. I haven't seen episode 3 yet, but I intend to. I'll probably watch it as soon as we get off of here.
It's definitely worth watching. Yeah, unfortunately, they kind of moved it to the Friday night death slot, so you always just assume that it's going to be the last season. I think that ABC moving it to the death night of television is probably a pretty good sign that this is going to be it for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So at least they're going out with a bang. I got to say that. My understanding is that they're going to split this season into 2 different pods. So the first pod, I think, is going to be 10 episodes, and that's going to be them up in space, kind of what they're doing now. So this is going to be going on for a while, and then we'll see what they do with the second pod. I'm hoping for a little bit more Ghost Rider action. I think that would be pretty cool. Maybe they could just put Ghost Rider in space. That'd be fine too.
That'd be ridiculous. It'd be crazy.
Yeah, it's great. I'm excited to see where it goes from here. I think they've really put down an interesting premise for this stuff, this first pod.
I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really set down the precedent for quality television set. Like you're given so many episodes per season. How do you deal with that? And a lot of times what happens is with television shows, you get tremendous amount of filler, and it kind of feels like a shell or a husk. And I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really, I might be mistaken my shows. I don't think I am though. I thought it set a precedent for let's just do 3 separate arcs within our given amount of space.
Well, they did that season 4. Yeah, absolutely. And even season 2, season 3 had 2 different arcs per season.
Right.
So they basically didn't do it since season 2, but certainly season 4, they decided to go even more separated with, was it the Ghost Rider, LMD, and Framework stuff? Was that the 3 arcs, I think?
Yeah, that was the 3 arcs, and it made for an incredible experience. It didn't...
Yeah, there was no filler.
Yeah, it felt very concise, and it was, and you could notice it, and I think they did... I really appreciate that, because that's probably my biggest complaint with network television is you get a show that you thoroughly enjoy, but then you have to put up with episode after episode after episode of just filler.
And not only that, a lot of the times they give it these weird airing schedules where, your mid-season finale is the first week of December. We're not going to be back for 2 months.
Yeah.
I hate when they do that. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of avoided that by having these separated arcs, and then it would be like, okay, we'll be back in 2 months and we'll start a new arc.
Yeah.
At least it felt like a complete, mini season, I guess, if you want to kind of classify it as that. And then it would move on and then do another little one, take another break, and then move on. So I think that with them only doing 2, we might run into the issues of them kind of having a crazy broadcast schedule. I'm hoping not, because this started later, because Inhumans basically took its time slot for however many episodes it ran for. And then, so this is starting a lot later than it usually has started in seasons past. So I'm hoping that as such, they'll kind of be able to avoid the breaks that they take, but I think that we'll still see a little bit of that. So hopefully it doesn't interfere too much with it.
Right.
So the ratings aren't so great right now. They've never been amazing, to be fair, but they're worse now because it's on, people don't watch TV on Friday night. It just doesn't work that way. So it's just not a good night to put a show on. But if you're trying to cancel a show,
take it from us. Watch that shit on Hulu.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, absolutely. Like, it is worth watching 100%. And if you've never watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I certainly wouldn't recommend you jump in at season 5. That's definitely a bad starting point.
No.
But it's on Netflix. Like, the first half of the first season is pretty rough to get through. I mean, it's probably fine if you're binge watching it, honestly. But the back half of season 1 makes it totally worth it, I think. And then it's just nothing but goodness from that point. Yeah.
I remember I don't think I got into like season 3. Maybe season 4. I can't remember where I got in at. But I jumped in because you and Henry started talking about it a whole lot. And I was like, I'm just going to start watching it. So I started watching it, and if you can binge it out, it's definitely a bingeable show. As long as you can get yourself through the first, what do you say, probably 8 episodes maybe?
Probably a little bit more. Probably 10 or 12 or something like that. But it once it gets going, absolutely.
And then now you have characters in fucking space, so it's an awesome show. It's really cool.
Yeah. And those early first season episodes really do lay down a lot of character work that I think that pays off in a big way down the line.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it definitely comes highly recommended from both of us. I would say that it's far and away the best superhero show on television at the moment.
Absolutely. There's no shadow of a doubt about that. It's awesome.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't watch Gotham these days, but I still feel confident saying that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is better than everything else. So, speaking of the everything else that I do watch, though, I'm through week 5 of my CW stuff.
Power rankings!
Yeah, power rankings time. Legends... staying at number 1. It's just it's too much fun. It's too much fun for its own good. Pushing Arrow up to number 2. I think I had dropped it last week. I'm going to put it back number 2 because they had a Deathstroke episode and it was fucking awesome. There's like this one sequence of Deathstroke just absolutely carving people up and shooting people in like a hallway sequence. It was a little Marvel Netflix-esque.
Wow.
And I really enjoyed that. And we got some Deathstroke flashbacks and stuff. And the flashbacks were kind of lame, but at least they kind of were making an effort to like, hey, let's focus on a super cool character instead of Felicity for once, and I enjoyed that. Although there was one remark about Slade is like, that Felicity, she's such a good character, she's so smart, how did you get a girl like her? Like, it was kind of like, all right, guys, we get it, but I can push aside that one line. But Supergirl coming in at number 3. I thought it was another pretty good episode. I think Supergirl's done a pretty good job handling some of the relationship stuff. Which obviously that's par for the course for CW in terms of dealing with that. But for the past like season 2 and 3, they've been dealing with they've kind of explored like a lesbian relationship with one of its main characters, and I think they've done a really good job of dealing with that, dealing with kind of
fucking CW, man,
implications of that. Well, I think it's a cut above your usual CW stuff. In terms of dealing with that, it's honestly kind of the everything else about the show that's kind of been solid, not anything spectacular, but I thought they did a really good job with that. And it was the episode I just watched. That was one of the Kevin Smith episodes that he did. And so I always enjoyed Kevin Smith kind of going out there and working on those episodes.
He did have a very good Flash episode. I mean, it's one of the things I can write home about from what I've watched from CW. It's a Kevin Smith episode on the Flash, but continue.
Riverdale's coming in at number 4. I actually think Riverdale's solid. It just doesn't seem like it's not quite, I think, to the level of season 1 for me right now. And I think it's still kind of just, I don't know. I think season 1 was just a more interesting premise. This one kind of feels a little contrived. They've got like a serial killer type thing on the loose, and he's being like super creepy with one of the main characters, is like, I'm doing this for you. And it's just kind of like, I don't know. This kind of feels a little out there. Like, I don't know. It feels like they're trying to kind of replicate the tone and feel of the first season, whereas I think they probably could have taken it in a different direction and used the characters, and that might have been a better approach. But it's still early days, so I'm curious to see how they'll kind of take it. It's kind of a whodunit type thing right now that they're doing with it again. So it's all right. It's fun. I enjoy it. And last, The Flash, still bad.
Wah, wah, wah.
It's just no good. I don't know what it is. They just cannot get it right.
Did you see where, not to cut you off or anything, but in regards to the CW stuff, they're adding another superhero show to it. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, Black Lightning. I meant to. There's another piece of news, I guess that slipped my mind. I didn't actually watch the trailer for that.
I did.
Yeah, how does it look?
It looks like it'd be. I mean, it looks almost Flash-esque, as far as like effects and stuff go. It looks like it could be pretty cool.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, it's definitely something that's on my radar, so I'll be keeping tabs on that, and I'll check out the trailer too when I get a chance. So that's it for the CW stuff. Moving on to TV show stuff that is actually really good. I watched the first season of Luther.
Fuck yes, man! It's about time.
Yeah, I know you've been talking to me about it for ages, and so
what'd you think?
It was really good. I didn't really know, I guess, kind of what to expect, or at least it went against my expectations. I guess I knew that. I mean, I knew Idris Elba was playing, kind of this detective character, but Ruth Wilson's character, Alice Morgan,
yes,
I had no idea the nature of her character, and so I was really kind of shocked by that because. Like, even from the first episode, I was like, isn't she like a series regular for this? Like, how the hell are they going to make that work? But she's awesome, and he's awesome too, actually. And it was a really good season. I watched it because it's a pretty short first season. I think it's only 6 episodes. I think,
right?
The first one's 6 episodes.
Oh, well, they go to. I think they go to 3 episode arcs from there.
Yeah, I think they're shorter from that point on. So that's kind of why I picked it up, because I wanted something kind of that was a little bit shorter that I could kind of just bang out. And I knew that it came highly recommended courtesy of you, and no, definitely worth a watch. Idris Elba's great, a lot of fun.
It's well made. It's a well made show.
Yeah, it's really well made, and the way that they kind of weave the Alice character in there, I thought was really fun. A lot of fun interactions between her and Luther. So good stuff. I will be catching season 2 hopefully very shortly, and I'll let you know once I do. Other things that I've done, it's a long list, I told you. I caught Takashi Miike's Blade of the Immortal. It's his latest film that he's done. He's a very prolific Japanese filmmaker. I think this was his 100th project.
I wanted to watch that so bad. Can't believe you watched it before me.
So it's based off of, I think, a very long-running a manga series, if I'm not mistaken. Not anything I'm familiar with, but it was awesome. It's really long. I think that's probably the only thing I didn't love about it. It's about 2.5 hours long. I probably think it could have been trimmed, but it's got some really amazing sequences in there of just kind of samurai sword play, and it's awesome. I mean, basically, the kind of the idea is that, he's this immortal samurai, and so a lot of the fight sequences, like, he's just getting absolutely... It's kind of Wolverine-esque, I guess, where he's getting absolutely fucked up in a lot of these sequences, and he's still coming back and fighting, and it's really cool. It's very bloody, very gory, and at times it really kind of feels very anime-esque in terms of kind of like the character design and the style of it. I really enjoyed that, though. It's I think the last samurai movie I watched was Seven Samurai, and it is not that, but I enjoyed the cinematography of it's really cool. Like I said, the designs of a lot of the characters I thought was really, really well done, and it was a really, really cool movie. And it finishes with this super badass Miyavi song. I like myself some Japanese rock anyway, and then it just kind of kicks in with this fucking badass song, and I'm like, this is it. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out whenever you get a chance. And that's really all that I've watched. I've been playing a little bit more Mario Odyssey.
There you go.
I know we're kind of running long here, so I'm not going to get too involved here, but I basically cleared the Wooded Kingdom, I cleared the Lost Kingdom, and now I'm working my way through the Metro Kingdom right now. Metro Kingdom's pretty awesome, although I will say fuck that jump rope game. I don't know if you wasted your time trying to get to those fucking... You can do, if there's 2 levels, you have to get the 30, and then you have to get 100 to get the 2 power moons out of that. And let's just say I spent about an hour last night trying to get that 100.
I think I got to 60. I think was the highest I went to.
No, I got to 100, and I did it. But let's just say I was ready to punch a hole in something by the end of that. But I did it, and now I can just move on with my life. I would have felt very incomplete if I hadn't been able to finish that task, but I did. So all is well in the world. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, I'm still playing through it, so I'm still working through the Metro Kingdom, and I'm gonna kind of slowly work my way through the end of the game and beyond. And it's really good. It's a really good game. I know we talked about it pretty extensively in the past. So that is finally everything I've been up to. Like I said, I've been pretty lazy, so. taking advantage of my days off. Let's just put it that way.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice. It's definitely nice to kind of just be lazy and yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this week. Thank you guys for tuning in to our episode about the Disaster Artist and making your way through all those bits of news. Definitely check out those trailers if you haven't had a chance to. I think they're all kind of worth taking a look at. See if you agree with our opinions on it. If you have any opinions on it or anything like that, send it our way. Catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Gmail, all that. Check us out at watchreviewrepeat.com. Follow us at WRRPod on Twitter. You can follow me at Cbro360 on Twitter. I assume you still don't remember your Twitter information.
I still don't
so I'm
remember
not even
my
ask.
Twitter information, no.
I wasn't going to ask, but our email, watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. And that's really it. Next week, it's time for the Jedi to end.
Oh yeah, Star Wars.
It's finally here. Well, it's not here yet. It's less than a week away, but I'm excited. They had their premiere on Saturday night. We've seen some critics' impressions trickling out. Everything seems very positive so far. So the hype levels are reaching critical mass. Let's just put it that way. I'm curious. Are you gonna rewatch anything prior to The Last Jedi?
I need to catch up on Rebels season 4. And of course, I have to watch Force Awakens. Of course, I have to watch that.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do is watch The Force Awakens. I'm going to watch it Wednesday night, and then I've got tickets to see The Last Jedi Thursday night, and then we're seeing it on Saturday night as well. So I'll have seen it twice, certainly by the next time we record, and I think Force Awakens is definitely kind of probably the only thing I'll really get a chance to watch before it, but I think that's probably essential viewing to kind of, not that I haven't seen it, I've seen it a million times already, but fuck it, man, I'll see it again. I got to do it, so make sure you tune in next week. I think it'll probably be a pretty long episode of nothing but Star Wars talk, and we know we've been waiting to get it out of our systems for so long, so all right, anything else you want to add on, Andrew?
No, that's it. Everybody have a good night, and we'll see you next week with some Star Wars news.
I don't know about news.
No, Star Wars episode, man. Finally a whole episode dedicated to fucking Star Wars. I'm excited. We might not even have any fucking news for next week. We just might talk about Star Wars.
It's just a solid 6-hour block of Star Wars. We'll try to keep it at a reasonable length, but yeah, I think you guys will find out that we like Star Wars. Let's just put it that way, in case you haven't figured it out yet. But yeah, make sure you come back next week. Until then, you guys have a good one.
Adios.